Daddy, you sure have a lot of free time recently. I can't help it. My future son-in-law is far too talented. Jai Ruojin looked like he was joking. What has he done now? Jai Yanran blinked to look as if she didn't know, despite the fact Han Sen had already told her. Didn't he tell you? He used a spirit to beat a dozen elites in Huang Yunlong, Jai Ruojin said. I only heard he used a humanoid pet beast soul to kill a bunch of thieves that sought to rob him. Jai Yanran said, smiling. Thieves, huh? Jai Ruojin smiled and asked her, baby daughter, did you ask him what level his beast soul is? Super beast soul. Jai Yanran replied with certainty. So, it is a super beast soul. Jai Ruojin had already guessed that much, but he was still taken aback to hear it confirmed. For Han Sen to have a beast soul like that, he had to have killed at least one other super creature. It was hard not to be surprised by it. The Jai family spent a lot of wealth to fund the killing of just one super creature, and that was in the first god's sanctuary. Oh, and Han Sen said he will provide us with the Frosty Bear's essence. And what are the conditions of such an offering? Jai Ruojin asked. Dad, don't say that. Why would there be any conditions or strings attached? He only said that it was a gift for me and I can do whatever I want with it. Jai Yanran blinked. There really aren't any conditions. Jai Ruojin asked again, with much surprise. There aren't. But because he's been so good to your daughter, you can't allow yourself to be in his debt, Jai Yanran slyly suggested, acting all cute. This Han Sen is a smart guy, I'll give him that. Giving it to you as a gift will undoubtedly benefit him more than if he were to sell it to us. Jai Ruojin smiled and finished by saying, he has very good judgment to think this way. He is not someone who hankers for a little profit every chance he gets. I know, I'm not blind. You didn't think I'd pick a fool, did you? Jai Yanran smiled and proceeded to say, Han Sen told me he'll be staying in the ice field, and that we can come pick up the life Geno essence whenever we want. Sure, you tell little Han that the Jai family does not accept charity, and things aren't accepted without something given in return. I'll go back and have a talk with your uncle. We'll give Han Sen a reasonable reward for this gift. Fret not. Jai Ruojin then paused for a bit before asking, oh, and tell little Han that the Jai family is formally requesting the opportunity to cooperate and hunt a super creature together in unison. If he is interested, I'm sure we'll have much to discuss. And in regards to that other life Geno essence, Han Sen agreed to sell it to the Qin family. Jai Yanran answered immediately. The Qin family. Jai Ruojin lowered his head to think for a bit, and then continued by saying, not bad. He's got his head screwed on right. He sure knows what he's doing. Jai Yanran did not lie. Han Sen was indeed planning on selling it to the Qin family. After all, he could not absorb the life Geno essence of a first-generation super creature, and holding on to it would just make others jealous. He would also maximize the profit he could receive by selling it as early as possible. Han Sen was a part of the Special Security Operation Team, and it looked after his family. Considering his relationship with Qin Xuan, he was almost obligated to sell it to the Qin family. The news of the sale of the two life Geno essences, and the fact he was in possession of a super pet, became well-known facts in the alliance. A lot of key officers and faction officials were rocked by the news. A lot of people who knew Han Sen in a closer capacity were asked about him. Did he have more life Geno essences? Would he be willing to cooperate, maybe even help hunt a super creature? Han Sen's answer, of course, was no. He rejected all requests and remained in the shelter, refusing to go anywhere. All he did was practice his Dongshuan Sutra while waiting for the peaches to ripen. Even though he was in the goddess shelter, Han Sen still felt the itch of numerous eyes watching him wherever he went. He supposed that was the price of being famous, but overall, Han Sen cared little. A month later, the season for the peaches to ripen had fast approached. Han Sen summoned Beetle Knight to camouflage himself while he was in the shelter, so he could sneak out unseen. The whole world was paying heed to Han Sen's every movement. To get the mystic fruit from the giant peach tree in the peach forest, Han Sen brought the silver fox and the little angel. He wanted to grab a peach to see if he could unlock the first tier of the Dongshuan Sutra. Entering the peach forest once more, Han Sen had far more courage. Even if the pink snake brought an army with him, he was confident he could slay them all, with the silver fox and little angel by his side. But nothing of the sort happened. The silver fox's presence shooed off any creatures along the way, which disappointed Han Sen. He was looking forward to the possibility of slaying a host of sacred blood snakes, so he could gobble them up and get closer to maxing out his sacred Geno points. But for some reason, the pink snake and its legion of slithering serpents did not appear until he had arrived at the giant tree. The legion of snakes had gathered all around the mystic peach tree. Han Sen also saw the black bear and its cub there. A blue beast and a crane of sorts were there as well. Every creature he had encountered at the tree the last time, minus the bone elephant, were here at the tree once again. Hansen's arrival was not without trouble, however. His coming led to unrest with the pink snake and its legion. And indeed, the legion of snakes did not disperse with the silver fox's coming. As Hansen arrived, all of the snakes lifted their heads, as if to warn Hansen not to tread any closer. The pink snake was sat upon the Titan boa as it once did. It stared at Hansen with cold, poisonous eyes. It was evident it had not forgotten who he was. But for some reason, the pink snake avoided Hansen and did not attack. This behavior surprised him. The black cub, on the other hand, looked delighted to see Hansen. In surprise, it ran out to Hansen's feet, ignoring the legion of snakes. With a little observation, Hansen noticed that the cub had grown in size since the last time it met. It had grown up fast. When the cub reached Hansen, it ran in circles and sniffed around him. Then, it signaled for Hansen to sit next to the big bear. Hansen, taking a look at the peach tree, noticed that there weren't any peaches on it yet. He watched it for a while, but then, after some time, noticed two peaches manifest between the green leaves. They were about the size of ostrich eggs. The peaches were red on the bottom and pale on the top. They looked as if they were moments away from ripening. Such a giant tree only produced two peaches. Hansen looked to his left and right, and indeed, the mystic peach tree had only produced two peaches. One was hanging at the tip of the twig and the other was a little further up. The super creatures that had gathered there all looked up at the peaches. The little angel and the silver fox were almost as powerful as the two bears in comparison. Hansen alone could almost equate to the power of the silver fox, and he wagered he could beat at least two super creatures to the punch of nabbing the peaches. Hansen then took a look at his competition: Pink Snake, Blue Beast, Crane, Little Bear, and Big Bear. There were 5 super creatures, and against the legion of snakes there, it'd be difficult to take the peaches. Hansen went near the big bear, which sat away from the peach tree. Strangely enough, none of the super creatures sought to go close to the tree. They circled it, almost as if there was a radius they had to be outside of. This confused Hansen, seeing 2 peaches on the tree, with one at the end of the twig and the other a little above. They both shone like a fruit from heaven's very own orchard. They emitted a pleasant smell, a smell even nicer than the smell of the peach flowers. But despite the tantalizing prospect of the peaches being right there for the taking, no creature dared make a move. It was like they weren't in a rush to take them. Hansen stared at the mystic peach tree and began to feel as if something was wrong. He used Jadeskin to unlock his gene lock and heighten his senses. Although he did not have the 8th sense yet, his senses and perceptions still exceeded that of the super creatures. Hansen used his new sensory functions to inspect the peach tree, and his face looked horrified. Through the use of his heightened senses, he noticed there was something wrong with the mystic peach tree. On the tree there was something really small, but it was something alive that moved around. In fact, there were many of them, and they were moving all over. When observing the twig that held the peaches, Hansen could see them crawling around like ants. Just seeing it made his head itch. Bugs? Why are there so many strange bugs on the tree? Hansen was shocked. The bugs were so small, yet the tree was huge. They dug underneath the bark of the tree, and with average eyesight, you could not tell they were there through simple observation. If it wasn't for Hansen's sense, he wouldn't have noticed their presence even if he went to stand directly in front of the tree. What are those bugs? Even the super creatures are avoiding them. They don't even dare to go close. Hansen frowned. Hansen was positive the last time he was here at the tree there were no bugs. Otherwise, he'd have known about them coming here. He was practicing Dongshuan Sutra for a long time beneath the boughs of that great tree, so there was no way he had managed to avoid sensing them during that time. Strange. Where did all these bugs come from? There is no way they can be super creatures, can they? But why are the super creatures scared of them? And why do they avoid going near the tree? Hansen mulled the peculiar situation. Hansen then remembered the time he got Princess Yin Yang. She informed Hansen about the nature of the sacred blood class silver beetle mother. Perhaps the bugs weren't all too different to the silver beetle. She explained that the smaller silver beetles were little more than weapons, created by the mother. They weren't actual living creatures. If these bugs were able to make the super creatures that scared, the mother of the bugs may have been a super creature as well. If this is true, that's bad news. They were inside the bark, eating it. Although they did not eat much, it was still a shocker to see. The mystic peach tree was something sacred. It was something that even the super creatures greatly admired. It was a surprise to see these bugs eat and desecrate it like so. Hansen, being unable to figure out what the bugs were, was just like the bears now. He remained motionless, staring at the tree, not daring to get close. They just waited until it was ripe. A few days later, the peach on the upper reaches of the twig had already turned jade. Strangely, it emitted a red mist. A holy presence emerged from the peach like jade as well. The scent was carried by the wind, coating the next few hundred miles with its pleasing fragrance. The legion of snakes was getting anxious and annoyed. In their impatience, they started to approach the peach tree ever so slowly. The pink snake was riding the head of a titan boa, which flew in circles of further impatience. It looked as if it wanted to launch itself onto the upper peach, which looked as if it was almost ripe. But it didn't yet. It showed restraint due on account of its fear. The blue beast, resting on the branch of a tree, jumped down. It walked forward and stared at the upper regions of the tree, where the peach hung. Its eyes shone a blue color. But again, even this creature did not dare to approach the tree fully. Han Sen watched how all the creatures grew more and more impatient. They greatly desired the peach, but they were conflicted with a fear that prohibited them from going forward. Han Sen was surprised by the scene, and it made him even more puzzled over the nature of the bugs. Where did they come from, to possess such power that they frightened the super creatures? After a while, the wonder of the fruit's delightful scent reached its zenith, and the red mist that the peach emitted cloaked the entire fruit and began to resemble a holy light. The peach had become transparent, and Han Sen could see how juicy it was on the inside. The temptation to sink his teeth into it, regardless of the prospect of subsequent death, was real. At that moment, the bugs went crazy and washed up the tree like the tide of the sea. Like a shadow, they ascended all the way to the peach. They were like a murky liquid cloud. If he looked closer, he could see the vast swarms of bugs that pushed and squeezed together in a bustle to reach the peach. Despite watching the peach fall into the hands of the bugs, the super creatures still hesitated. Han Sen gritted his teeth, summoned his wings and Rex Spike, and took off towards the peach. Han Sen's movement was like the tipping of the first domino. The pink snake screamed and leapt towards the peach, alongside its legion of other snakes. The blue beast roared, moved its four limbs, and raced up towards the peach. The crane was like an arrow, descending from the sky, aimed at the peach. The black bear and its cub roared to the sky and jumped towards the tree. Their fear of the bugs was still apparent, but they weren't willing to let the peach go that easily. The bugs were aware of Han Sen and the super creatures coming towards them, so they rustled their little wings and took off like black smoke. Han Sen swung his flaming Rex Spike, and fire incinerated swarms of the wretched bugs, which rained down to the ground like a hail of fire. They weren't killed, but they could no longer fly. There were far more bugs beyond the ones that were hit, however, and many more weaved their way around Han Sen's Rex Spike. The bugs were too small, and a weapon like the Rex Spike could not easily block them. Suddenly, the silver fox screeched as it lay on Han Sen's shoulder. A bolt of silver lightning incinerated the bugs that were coming for its master. Han Sen was thankful for the silver fox. Again, he swung his Rex Spike to break the mist of bugs and went forward to grab the peach. Other creatures did the same. Although the number of bugs was incomprehensible, none had managed to damage any of the super creatures. But even though Han Sen was the one who went first, the crane was still faster. The crane had managed to fly directly in front of the peach, and it used its beak to try to peck it from the twig it clung to. Pang! The black bugs gathered up together like a big black hand and slapped the intruding crane, which knocked it away a dozen meters. It took a moment to regather its composure and balance in the air. The bugs in front of Han Sen were like that as well. They swarmed together to resemble a black beast and attempted to strike him. Han Sen and the silver fox then cooperated to take down the black beast, brought to life through the unison of black bugs. The black bugs gathered together to become a flying animal or beast that could soar the skies, and their numbers grew and grew, buzzing everywhere, attacking every creature pining for the peach. The black bugs formed a big hand next, which gripped the tree. It clawed its way up, heading towards the peaches. The crane wasn't very happy after it got slapped. It cawed with rage and flapped its wings frantically to birth a frightening tornado. The creepy shapes of animals formed by the bugs, and the black hand that sought to steal the peaches, were sucked into it. The black bugs were flushed into the tornado and carried far away. The tornado was discolored, and it looked black. The number of bugs present in there was sickening to imagine. The crane then saw its opportunity to grab the peach, so it picked up speed and flew back. But before the crane could peck the peach free for itself, the sound of shattering wood rang out. A black hole formed in the side of the tree, and a fist-sized black bug exited from within. It looked like a 7-spotted ladybug, but its head was far bigger and it was entirely black. Its wings glittered translucent gold. The bug came out from the hole and flapped its golden wings, generating a bright light. Then it buzzed directly in front of the crane, striking one of its wings. The super creature's tough hide and feathers were torn into by the ravenous bug. The bug latched onto the crane's wing and it drove its teeth deep into the wing with a wide open mouth. A chunk of the crane's wing was ripped off, exposing its bones beneath the fresh gush of blood. The crane let out an upset cry, and it flapped its wings the best it could to kick up a sharp blade like wind. Hansen's head felt numb watching this, but he knew it was the chance he needed to grab the holy peach, and that was where he went. The gold-winged bug had been drawn to the sky by the crane, and this was Hansen's best chance to grab the peach. But something was faster than Hansen. The pink snake was using its legion of snakes for cover, and he didn't know when it had managed to get so close. The small snake was thin like a chopstick, yet when it opened its mouth, it was wide enough to swallow the entire peach. Seeing the peach about to be swallowed by the pink snake, another gold shadow emerged from the hole in the tree. In one smack, the pink snake was sent flying. It was another gold-winged ladybug. It grabbed a hold of the pink snake and bared its teeth, ready to sink them right into the slithering fiend. But the pink snake's body released some red mist like the peach. The bug let go and staggered away, looking dizzy. At that moment, Hansen noticed another 2 gold-winged ladybugs emerge from the hole inside the tree. This gave him quite the shock. There were more than 2 gold-winged ladybugs now, bugs that were almost as strong as the super creatures. 4 had exited the hole, and heaven knew how many more might still reside within. Of the 2 additional gold-winged ladybugs, one targeted the blue beast, whereas the other targeted Hansen. Hansen gritted his teeth, flapped his wings, and fell back a bit. He wasn't sure whether or not there were any more inside the hole, so he didn't dare attack. If he did, he might miss his chance at getting the peach. The gold-winged ladybug was coming towards Hansen, and in response, Hansen swung his Rex spike at the gold shadow. But the bug was too nimble, and it evaded the attack with ease. It continued onwards at full speed. The silver fox looked angry in response, as all the hair on its body stood up. Lightning cracked and sparkled across his coat of fur, which emitted a bolt of lightning that jumped towards the oncoming foe. The gold-winged ladybug flapped its wings to evade the silver fox's attack and continued its buzzing pursuit of Hansen. It was too late to lift the Rex spike again, and his heart quickly jumped. The peacock crossbow appeared in his hand, and with it, he smacked the bug that was coming to devour him. The peacock crossbow and the gold-winged ladybug collided. A terrible force was transferred to Hansen's hand, however, and he was sent spiraling. He was knocked a few dozen meters away but managed to keep his balance. His hand was bleeding, and it felt numb. That is some scary power. That little creepy crawly isn't any weaker than the average super creature. Hansen was shocked, but he quickly took notice of the gold-winged ladybug resuming its pursuit of him. Hansen and the silver fox fought the ladybug together, but still, they were at a disadvantage. Hansen had to use his really good senses, powered by the Dongshuan Sutra, but even with the silver fox's help, he was barely able to maintain his competition with it. The big and small bear used this opportunity to break the black bug's barrier. They ascended the peach tree as best they could, and with their thick fur and hide, had no fear of the bugs biting them. When they arrived near the peach, their bodies were black, covered in the nibbling insects. But this time, the big bear had a plan. It stared at the hole in the tree while allowing the little bear to gather the peach. There was more movement from inside, and indeed, something else was ready to emerge. But this time, it was not a gold-winged ladybug. It was a ladybug that was plated entirely in gold. Its head was twice the size of the other gold-winged ladybugs. It flapped its gold wings and shot out of the hole towards the bear cub like a gold shadow. The black bear roared and used its claws to try to grab the golden ladybug. But it was too fast, and with its rapid wings, it evaded the bear's paws and continued on to the cub. The big bear roared as if it was alerting the cub. But the cub, almost having reached the peach, didn't want to give up. It extended its paws and tried to grab it. The golden ladybug hit the cub, and it fell off the tree. It created a big hole in the ground when it landed. From below, the cub cried out in pain. The big bear no longer cared about the peach, and so it jumped down from the tree, roaring with anger as it chased after the golden ladybug. It was going to save the cub from danger. The cub was peppered with wounds from the insect assaulter, but fortunately, none were deadly. The black bear's claws smacked the golden ladybug's shell with a mighty slap, but nothing broke. Furthermore, it appeared entirely unfazed. The 2 bears were being ravaged as they did battle with the golden ladybug. And throughout this entire time, none had the free space or time to grab the peach. Now unopposed, the smaller black bugs resumed their shape as a hand and tried to grab the peach again. Excitement glistened in Hansen's eyes. He clenched his jaws and summoned the Adderade. A holy body cracked the air and perched itself atop the tree. It swung its transparent greatsword and severed the hand that had been formed by the black bugs. As she did this, she used her other hand to grab the peach. But when the Adderade tried to pull it, she could not get the peach free. Her eyes turned cold, and she swung her greatsword to detach the peach from the twig it stubbornly clung to. When she did this, the peach finally came free in her hand. Han Sen was happy seeing this. There were no other bugs coming out of the hole in the tree, so it looked like 5 was all of them. And now, the holy peach was in the Adorade's hand. Han Sen's hand jumped, and he ordered the Adorade to leave the area. Otherwise, if she was noticed to be holding the peach, she'd become enemy number 1 for every super creature in the forests. The Adorade flapped its wings and shot off into the sky. Then the 5 ladybugs and the super creatures did indeed turn their attention to the Adorade. They all roared, screamed, and screeched with a desire to tear the Adorade apart. They went after her. Han Sen saw this, so he gritted his teeth and pulled out his Rex spike. He traveled to the other peach, the one that hadn't fully ripened yet. He had never expected there to be 5 super creature ladybugs guarding the fruit. He was fortunate that the Adorade had managed to pluck the peach when it did. If he came back for this one when it was ripe, however, he was unsure whether or not he'd be able to get it. If they were aware the Adorade belonged to Han Sen, and he was the one who had obtained it, the other creatures would be especially wary of him. The 5 golden ladybugs were too powerful for him to fight, and he didn't want to risk his life any further. If he wasn't going to risk his life again, he thought he might as well grab the other peach while he was there. Even though it wasn't entirely ripe just yet, it had to be useful somehow. Perhaps it would be less efficient, but it was better than nothing. Han Sen rushed to the top of the tree, raised his Rex spike, and tried to cut down the lower holy peach that had not yet fully ripened. But suddenly, he was alerted by something, and a cold chill ran down his spine. Han Sen pulled back quickly and saw a red flash pass by his head. It was the pink snake, back for vengeance. Han Sen's body was drenched in a sudden cold sweat. The pink snake did not chase after the Adorade and had instead stayed behind to get Han Sen. Fortunately, he had a strong sense, strong enough to dodge the sudden sneak attack. If he hadn't evaded it, the pink snake would undoubtedly be squirming its way inside his ear by now. Thinking about what happened to the bone elephant, Han Sen couldn't help but feel his head itch. The pink snake missed its attack and rebounded off a tree branch, leaping towards Han Sen once more. Han Sen and the silver fox now dealt with the pink snake together, but it robbed them of the opportunity to grab the holy peach. The silver fox was too young. If it had grown up a little more, it might have been able to deal with the pink snake by itself. Han Sen would have been able to grab the peach while the snake was kept busy. Right now, they both were struggling to keep up with the pink snake. The heavy weapon, the Rex spike, was too slow against it and was ineffective to wield. Han Sen wanted to summon the Adorade back, but she was holding the peach. If she was resummoned back through the Sea of Soul, the peach could not come with her. The legion of snakes now attacked from all directions, and with the black bugs in tow, the place was in chaos. Han Sen tried to shake off the pink snake a few times but couldn't. In fact, he almost inhaled the red mist that the snake emitted. Not long after, he heard the buzzing of flying insects arrive. The few ladybugs that went after the Adorade were now returning, having given up their pursuit. The blue beast and the 2 bears also returned. Aside from the crane, they had all come back. Han Sen, acknowledging how frantic the situation had become, could only retreat. The 5 ladybugs hadn't just come back to the area. However, they had come back to go after Han Sen alone. Without thinking, Han Sen chose to run. If he couldn't deal with 1, there was no chance he could take on 5. The 5 ladybugs came towards him, clearly aware that Han Sen was the Adorade's master. To get the peach, they now thought it best to slay the master who was in control of it. Han Sen wished he could grow more legs. He ran as fast as he could, but the ladybugs behind him were flying faster. They were quickly gaining on him. The silver fox squealed, and it brewed a charge of silver lightning. The lightning looked like a spider web as it fired towards the 5 ladybugs. The 4 gold-winged ladybugs came into contact with the electric net. They convulsed and became numb with the charge, which caused their pursuit to slow down. But the big golden ladybug was not affected by the discharge, and it flew just as fast as ever. Han Sen's heart almost leapt out of his chest. He knew the strength of the golden ladybug after watching the 2 bears' inability to deal with it, and their subsequent multitude of wounds. There was no way Han Sen and the silver fox could ever dream of repelling it. Seeing the golden ladybug giving close pursuit, Han Sen cast a skill that would enable him to dodge it. He hoped that the movement would sustain his life a little bit longer. The golden ladybug was too fast, however, and the gold shadow flashed to tear Han Sen's shoulder open with a deep cut. It was so deep that the shoulder bone was exposed, and it was bleeding badly. Han Sen was still conflicted on whether or not he should summon the Adorade back. If he didn't, he wondered if it was only a matter of time before he and the silver fox were killed. But suddenly, the golden ladybug turned its attention away from them and flew away. Han Sen was surprised, but he understood why it had left them be. He looked back towards the mystic tree and saw the pink snake open its maw wide, preparing to bite the not yet ripe peach. Observing the carnage and the return of the golden ladybug to the tree, the two bears ran away in fear. Seeing the two bears bail, Hansen understood there was no hope in remaining. He turned around and headed in the direction the adderate had gone. Without the two bears there, only the pink snake and blue beast remained. Even with Hansen and the silver fox, there was no way they could fight off the 5 ladybugs. With the hate and contempt they harbored for Hansen in particular, he was aware that any return to the area would quickly result in death. It would be suicide. He wanted to quickly retrieve the peach from the adderade. With only the crane chasing her, he was sure he'd be able to get the peach from her. As expected, before Hansen reached the adderade, it could see the crane in hot pursuit. It screeched, gliding on the air, summoning strong winds. Then it went up above the clouds. It left little blood droplets, suggesting it had been injured. Hansen saw the shadow of the adderade in the distance, which now turned towards Hansen. It looked as if she was chasing the injured crane. But the crane was one with the wind, and now it was long gone. Even the adderade could not catch up with it. Hansen took the juicy peach from the adderade's hand and was filled with sublime happiness. He carefully placed it in a bag he had prepared for it and quickly left the forest. With the 5 ladybugs guarding the peaches, Hansen was lucky to get one. He knew this, and he knew it was best for him not to return and risk the greed of trying to nab the second. Hansen thought the lower peach was guaranteed to be secured by the 5 ladybugs. He did not think that the pink snake and the blue beast stood a chance against them. One thing Hansen did not understand, however, was the relationship between the golden ladybug and the smaller, gold-winged ladybugs. They were actual super creatures, not some black bugs that had been created as a form of weapon. If the golden ladybug gave birth to the 4 gold-winged ladybugs, then the second generation would be stronger than the mother. But this was not so, because the golden ladybug was evidently stronger than the other 4. But no matter what their relationship was or what it suggested, Hansen couldn't care less right now. All he wanted to do was return to the Crystal Palace where it was safe. There, he could safely dine on the Holy Peach and practice his Dongshuan Sutra. Perhaps he could finish his first tier now, which was his ultimate goal. Fortunately, his return trip was uneventful, and he reached the Crystal Palace safe and sound. He pulled out the peach from his pockets, and the whole Crystal Palace suddenly smelled of a wonderful, fruity scent. A holy light caressed the peach, and its transparent skin was a thin membrane separating the outside world and the divine carnival of juices within. The pleasant scent could not be held back by the skin. The silver fox opened its jaw and leapt to the peach, attempting to swallow it whole. But Hansen was well prepared for this, and so he commanded the adderade to hold on to the silver fox. No matter how much it struggled, and struggle it did, it would not be getting a lick of this peach. I'm sorry, silver fox, but this peach is mine. Why don't you go eat some candy or something? Hansen brought out a Geno Creation pill to feed the silver fox. The silver fox loved eating a Geno Creation pill each and every day, but now it did not even look at it. All the silver fox wanted was that glorious peach. Hansen carried the peach to a private room inside the Crystal Palace to avoid any disturbances that might arise during his practice. Although he felt sorry for denying the silver fox the peach, he only had one of them. He had no choice but to keep it for himself. If he did still have some peach left after his breakthrough, however, he'd give the leftovers to the silver fox. Looking at the peach in his hand, Hansen brought out a medical syringe. He planned to extract some of the juice to try it out first. Although merely smelling the peach flowers had aided him in the improvement of the Dongshuan Sutra, flowers were flowers and fruit was fruit. They were different. Just because the flowers were good for him, it didn't mean the fruit would be good for him, too. What was important, though, was to take good things in moderation. Not wanting to send this peach off for research, either, he chose to test it on himself. But when Hansen pressed the needle against the peach, there was resistance. Pushing harder, the needle snapped and the skin remained unbroken. Hansen froze. Then, he pulled out a raven bolt. He tried using the feather to cut the piece, but that was to no avail as well. The peach couldn't be cut. Driven to desperation, Hansen also tried smacking the peach with his flaming Rex spike. But no matter what he tried, the peach would not break. Hansen was very sweaty after his exercise in trying to open the peach. He was disappointed also. What the hell is this? Is this peach just not meant to be eaten by humans? But for something this strong, I'm not so sure super creatures could eat and digest it, either. Hansen picked up the peach and tried to bite it with his mouth. But when he bit it, the sweet juices of the peach erupted all over his mouth like the opening of a floodgate. It was strange that no matter what he tried, nothing could break it. Only with the purpose of eating it could it be pierced. The peach juice was like a cascade of honey running into his mouth. The whole peach was so soft and succulent. Han Sen now fully understood what it meant for food to melt inside your mouth. Han Sen only wanted a little bit, but after taking that one bite, the entire peach began melting in his mouth. The sweet juice flowed into his belly, and even the peach skin seemed to evaporate. In no time at all, only the core remained in Han Sen's hand. The core was clean, and it shone like dazzling jewelry. This is indeed a magical sort of peach. I can't destroy it with weaponry, but I can eat it with ease. That is very unique. Han Sen then sighed. But before Han Sen could finish sighing, a pleasant fragrance permeated the atmosphere of the room. It drifted through his nostrils and coated his insides. His limbs were warmed, and his blood almost felt livelier in its delivery to and from his heart. More and more of the pleasant scent was being refined inside him. The refreshing smell that came from Han Sen's body was growing stronger and stronger. Even the sealed-up room could not trap the wonder of that pleasant scent, and it now covered the entirety of the Crystal Palace. The silver fox tried to be greedy and absorb most of the smell, which made his fur shine like a coat of pure silver. The gourd also absorbed the smell in its own way. Zero really enjoyed the scent as well. When she sniffed it, she smiled. The little angel, Princess Yin Yang, the mermaid princess, and the snow charmer each loved the smell as well, and they basked in the mist of pleasure fondly. The refreshing, pleasant smell inside him had totally evaporated, but Han Sen felt his own life force reaching max capacity. It felt like he was going to overload and have the life force burst out from his cells. Every hit was like a wave, which made his entire body vibrate with moans and groans. Every finger, every hair, and even every cell felt like it was going to explode. Han Sen could no longer remember how many pulsations he had felt. But suddenly, he felt as if his body had broken a chain that previously bound him. His entire body felt light and liberated, like a feather with the freedom and comfort to dance its way across the world. The life energy was bursting out, which made others want to get close to him. It was different than the Jadeskin gene lock. Although the body and its senses were increased, the Dongshuan Sutra was better than Jadeskin. Han Sen was only sitting in his room, yet he could watch the silver fox's energy flow from 100 meters away. With that transparent force spreading, Han Sen could feel every element of the life that populated the Crystal Palace. It was like the force had become a part of Han Sen's body, like it was an organ, except it could not be seen. This is amazing. Han Sen was very happy. In the future, when he fought with a super creature or human, all he would have to do was unlock this gene lock to easily learn his opponent's flow of energy. He could totally learn their flow during a fight. He did not have to wait for his opponent to absorb his pleasant smell. Han Sen tried simulating the Saint Bone Elephant's flow. Suddenly, he felt his pulse consist of 100 elephant cries. An infinite cosmos of power brewed inside his body, filling his entirety like a mad flood. It was much stronger than before, when the gene lock hadn't been broken. Han Sen picked up the bone elephant's essence. Under the strong energy flow of the bone elephant, the life geno essence vibrated in his hand. It suddenly flew out of his grasp and assimilated with his body. Essence absorbed, Saint Bone Elephant. You have gained 1 super geno point. Essence absorbed, Saint Bone Elephant. You have gained 1 super geno point. The familiar voice rang in his head. Han Sen almost released tears of joy. After all his hard work, he had finally discovered how to absorb a life geno essence. His heart jumped, and the Dongshuan Sutra's energy began to change. It was following along with the gourd's energy flow. Suddenly, a peculiar power began to blossom inside him. Han Sen's body became magnetic. Everything inside the room was magnetized to Han Sen, and everything flew in his direction. He was unexpectedly battered. They were like homing missiles, and he had no chance of dodging the now dangerous furniture. Left and right he weaved, but to no avail. Everything in the room was now being glued to his person. The crystal chair, the lampstand, and even table was a threat, and they all piled against Han Sen. There was even a crystal bed, which was now looming over him, ready to fall on top of him. At the ghastly sight, Han Sen was utterly shocked. In haste, he ended the simulation of the gourd's energy flow. When Han Sen cut the energy flow, everything that was sticking to his body crashed down to the floor. It was like he had switched on some magnetism mode inside him. He was quite confused. What the heck is this energy flow? Did I just turn into a magnet that can pull everything towards me? What possible purpose could something like that serve? Han Sen did not understand and was not quite sure what to think. But that was fine. Han Sen did not need this energy flow. Right now, he had finished his first tier of the Dongshuan Sutra, and now he could use it to secretly learn the energy flows of second-generation super creatures. Each Kai Gong was like a different key, where different keys could unlock different chests, and each chest contained a different treasure. If I cannot absorb the life geno essence of a first-generation super creature, maybe it's best that I sell it to a big faction and earn some dosh. Han Sen then took to wondering how and where he might sell them for the most money. But he then suddenly heard a voice coming from someplace within the Crystal Palace. Announcement: the second God's Sanctuary's battle arena has opened. Join the battlegrounds, for the holy battles begin in 33 days. The voice of a cold woman echoed throughout the Crystal Palace, which spooked Han Sen. Hearing what she had to say, however, put a strange look on his face. The holy battles in the second God's Sanctuary were different than the holy battles in the first God's Sanctuary because, aside from humans, spirits could also take part in the combat. It wasn't purely human versus human. But what was more, this wasn't an annual event like it was in the first God's Sanctuary. The holy battles only took place every 10 years in the second God's Sanctuary. In the past, no human had been able to win and achieve the title Son of God. The previous 9 Son of God titles were all won by spirits. They never failed once. No human knew what the reward for being the 10th Son of God was. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss the next chapter.